Hi guys, so I hope you're all having a wonderful week. We're halfway through the week, so hopefully it's been a breeze for some of you guys. And if not, just look at the bright side. We're halfway through it, so it'll almost be over. This evening, I'm going to touch on the issue about advice and how it's appropriate in regards to your relationship and marriage. For starters, I'm going to touch on the issue of marriage. In regards to when we are upset with our spouse and we may go and just download everything in our feelings and emotions to like a friend or a family member, keep in mind when you do that, they're taking note. They're not forgetting what you said. They're not forgetting what your spouse may have done. So once you over with your rant and you're like, huh, okay, now I'm ready to go back to him or her. They're not over it. So you have to be very careful when it comes to getting advice from them, because you have to understand you're one with this person. So everything you do, it not only affects you, it affects them. So not only would you have to guard your heart, but you have to guard your relationship. You have to guard your marriage. And when you're guarding your heart, you're guarding that other person's heart as well, because now you're one flesh, you're one person. So now it's just not just about yourself. And even though when you're into disagreements, you're only thinking about yourself, you're not thinking like, okay, well, I need to make sure that I don't plant any bad seeds into my marriage. At that point, you're just like, I need to talk to someone because they're not obviously understanding what I'm saying. And I had to learn that the hard way, not in my marriage, but before we had got married, we would get into it. And of course, I would like, tell a friend or tell my mother. And my mother is one person that if you want to tell her something, you want advice, be prepared to be done with that person, because if you go back to that person, she's already done with them. And especially if you have overprotective friends and family, I know sometimes, we would get into it and I would tell her and she'd be like, oh, so y'all cool now? I'm like, yeah, we're fine. She'd be like, mm. And then something else will happen and she'd be like, oh, I didn't forget the last time. I'm not over that. So you have to be prepared for those things and take that into consideration when you're going forth and you're running to someone for advice. There's nothing wrong with seeking wise counsel, especially from pastors or someone that you're close with that has experience or that has a clear understanding and not just going to plant bad seeds, because I strongly believe in trying before you just completely give up. Exhaust all of your options when you're into a difficult situation. And if it's not working out, you guys obviously come to a middle and you agree to separate. So I'm just going to jump right into a Bible verse I got from Proverbs 3, and that's 5 through 6, and I'm reading from the King James Version. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Okay, so what exactly does that mean? So before you may run to your mother or a friend, how about this time you just take the time out to pray to the Lord? Tell all your emotions and your anger, and cast all of that to him, onto him, and he will be able to direct you. And with that being said, if you do that constantly, whenever you're upset about something, that's help building your relationship, because you're not trusting, man, or going off your own emotions when he said, and lean not unto thy own understanding. So that means pray first, because sometimes as human, in our flesh, we react and we're not even thinking about it. And we're just like, okay, well, I know what's right. Maybe I need to walk away. They're not understanding what I'm saying. He's wrong, I'm right. Ha, okay, moving on. But that's not always the right answer. And when you go to the Lord, he can convict you if you're wrong and reveal your heart to you and say, well, maybe you weren't really listening, or did you think about or take in consideration what you may have done wrong or what you may have said wrong. And you need that type of relationship with the Lord, because that way, you're set apart from your own thoughts and your own emotions and even the enemy, and you're able to hear the Lord's voice clearly so that you can know what's the next step and what you need to do. And of course, He will show you the signs if you ask for them. Even when you don't ask for them, He throws them in our face. And like I said in previous, times, we ignore them at times. And that's when you shouldn't ignore them. When the Lord is revealing something to you, you pay attention. You take heed to what He is saying. And I'm not saying that, getting advice from others is wrong, because at times he may use others to get to us when we're ignoring his signs or whatever he's putting in front of us. He may use others to, talk to us and say, well, listen, maybe you're wrong, you know, maybe you should listen and take things in consideration. Think about what you may have done wrong, or maybe just take the time out and really think about how you can fix your situation and what you need to do. Don't just completely walk away, because I think as humans, when things get tough at times, especially in this generation, we just want to throw the whole relationship away and start over. And that's not healthy, because you'll run into the same problems, because you don't know that this may be an issue that's tough for you, and you're in the wrong, or you're not doing something right, and we'll just keep searching and searching for moving on to the next person that's gonna fit well with what we demand, and how sometimes we don't feel that we're wrong, when in majority of the time that we may be wrong. It's nothing wrong with seeking counsel, wise counsel, and when I say that, I mean in the church, you know, or someone that's experienced and things like that. You don't want to get advice from Peggy from down the street that had never been married or never had a real relationship, and just been out here in living in the world, and telling you advice like, girl, leave him, trust me, I know, I don't have to put up with that. Not acknowledging her own mistakes, not acknowledging that she may have been wrong in certain situations. So it's not good to just get advice from anyone, because then they'll plant those bad seeds in your heart. And then you'll take those to your situation, and it can spiral out of control. And a situation that could have been saved or solved is done, because you didn't want to take the time out and really think about what you should do and talk to the Lord. I had to learn those things, like I said, on my own before we had got married. I would run to my mother or run to my friends, and obviously 5 minutes later, me and him were cool, but they weren't cool. They're like, "Oh, I'm not done being mad." So then that caused a rift, and when we all come together, and it may be an event and things like that, they're feeling some type of way, which may make him feel awkward or out of place, because it's like, I done ran and said this, down the third, but I knew 5 minutes later I was gonna be back in his arms. Um, and when I got married, I kept a lot of stuff in, because it was like, okay, this is my husband. I have to protect this. We're one. We're one flesh, and I think a lot of people take that into consideration, that um, when you're married, this is who you're with. Whatever affects them affects you. Whatever affects you affects them. So if you don't want no one out in the streets talking about you, you shouldn't want them doing that same thing about them. So I think as time goes on, we're kind of aware of, if we run to a certain person, what they might say or how they might feel about a situation. So you have to be really careful and guard your heart and guard your relationship when it comes to advice. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with seeking wise counsel, or even seeking advice from those who may be going through a similar situation or have been through that situation, because then you can take what they may have done, or what they have said, and you can learn from it. It could be a situation where that person may have been through the exact same thing, and they just instantly gave up. You could take from that situation that, okay, well, they gave up, but let me try first. And even if they had tried, it's like, okay, well, maybe they done all these things, but they didn't go to counseling, or they didn't go seek out pastors. Let's do that. You have to take those things into consideration. Some people give advice that you should make a list of the pros and cons, and if the cons outweigh the pros, then you know what you need to do. And if the pros outweigh, the cons outweigh the pros, then you still know what you need to do. There are so many ways that you can fix your situation when it comes to getting advice, but it's very important that we seek the Holy Spirit for counsel and for wisdom, because he can direct us the right way and what we need to do. And it's about learning from those mistakes and learning from those situations, so that we don't do that again. I remember back when my ex-husband was like so over the marriage, and he was getting ready to go, and he wanted to leave the marriage, and I didn't say nothing to no one for about a couple months, because I was like, okay, this could be something like a little phase we're going through, and we probably can get over it, so let me not say anything, because this is a big deal. And I didn't say nothing to my mother, I said nothing to no one, and I just was fighting on my own, until one day I was at work and I was on break, and I was talking to my mother, and she was like, well, how y'all doing? She would periodically ask, how we were doing, and I would tell her, oh, we're great, when we work great. But this particular time I was like, well, he wants to leave. And my mother, she said no more. And she was like, oh. Okay, well, he ain't say nothing but a word. Okay, that's fine. He don't want to work at it. That's fine. Okay. And she's like, you can do what you need to do. We look for places. And at that time, I still wasn't ready, to be like, this is it. This is over. But I was carrying so much baggage and weight that I didn't know what to do. And at that time, I didn't know that I was supposed to seek the Lord because, once again, I didn't really fully come into my walk with the Lord, that I had that relationship to be like, Lord, I need you to guide me. What should I do? I was more on like, Lord, please fix this, instead of asking Him, what can I do to fix this, or what do I need to do so that this is a healthy situation for me, because it wasn't healthy. It deteriorates a person sometimes when they're going through such a hard time and they're not knowing that you can give all of this to the Lord, all your fears and worries. You can cast all this at His throne and keep it moving, and He'll fix it. You don't have to worry about it. And that's one thing as humans, our flesh, um, we tend to worry and pray about it. But you can't do both. You have to do one or the other. Either you're going to worry and not going to pray about it, or you're going to pray about it and you're not going to worry. And I was doing both. But as time went on, I just learned that I pray about it and I'm over it. The Lord has handled it. What's done is done. And that's that. And that's a learning process for people to understand, especially when they're going through tough times in their relationships, or just difficult times where they're confused about some things and they want to get advice. It's okay to, call your parents or your friends that's been there, but keep in mind that if it's something serious and it's a repeated thing, they're not going to forget that. You may be over it, but they're not going to forget that. And in times like that, and in all times, actually, I'm sorry, you need to seek the Lord. You talk to Him. You ask Him for guidance. You do that, because that's another way of guarding your heart. The Lord is not going to break your heart. He's going to help protect it just as much as you are. So when you're confused about things, or you're going through things with your significant other or your husband or wife, you run to the Lord. You cast all those cares onto Him. And you ask Him, Lord, what do I need to do? What should I do? Reveal to me what I need to do. And in times, like I said, He will convict you. He will reveal your heart to you and be like, okay, well, you were wrong in this incident. Maybe you should really think about what you have done. I'm going to take care of them, but let's focus on you, because you is who you have to worry about at the end of the day. You have to make sure you're okay. Not saying that your significant other isn't important, or your husband or wife isn't important, but you have to make sure that you have a clear mind on your end. He'll convict them just as much as He's going to convict you. And sometimes we may run to people that's going to tell us exactly what we want to hear and things like that. Like, oh, it's not your fault, girl. He crazy. No, I don't see how you do that. You a good one. You a good one. No, no, and no. The Lord is a good one, and that's who you need to be running to. The Lord, that's the good one. You don't want to get advice from those who's going to tell you what you want to hear and not what you need to hear. The Lord is going to convict you the right way, and you may have those honest friends that will tell you, well, maybe you were wrong. What did you do? You kind of realize that sometimes you can't be abrasive, or you have a strong attitude. What was your approach to the situation? You need that in your life. You need that wisdom in your life, so that you're aware of your mistakes and what you're doing and what you're not doing. Um, and it's just things as far as um, when you want to save your situation, you go to the Lord, and it's okay if you don't seek, you're not comfortable with seeking other people. Be comfortable with the Lord. Get that relationship with Him so that you're comfortable seeking Him, because He'll never steer you wrong. No matter how many times you may mess up or you don't get a situation, He'll never steer you wrong. But you have to understand, you have to be serious about what you want to do. And if you're running to friends and family and it's the constant same thing, like, I'm so mad at him, I'm so over this, you better be over it, because they're not over it. Trust me, I know they're not over it. So you have to be careful when you're running to people and when you're trying to get advice and you're downloading all of your troubles and your issues with them, because they're not forgetting what's going on. They're taking notes. They're making a checklist. They're like Santa, making a list and checking it twice. Okay? They're not playing any games. So you be careful. Guard your heart. Guard your relationship. That's something that's so serious. You have to guard your relationship, because you don't want to plant bad seeds and get advice from the wrong person, and you're ignoring the Lord the whole time. Like I said, if you ignore him or things like that, he may you just may be lucky that he may send someone in your life or use that person to give you the advice off the signs that he's been trying to tell you for like the past 5 or 6 months, or Lord behold, the 5 or 6 years you've been with this person, and you're just ignoring, and you're constantly running into the same issues. You don't want that. So guard your heart, guard your relationship, seek the Lord. Seek the Lord. He will never steer you wrong. Like I said in Proverbs 5 through 6. Do not lean on your own understanding, but the Lord's. Don't lean on the flesh. Don't lean just on other humans or just your own emotions and thoughts. Because when you're leaning onto yourself, you're not thinking clearly. You're just going off of your emotions. And when you go off your emotions, the enemy puts those blinders. And you're just like, oh, forget it, I'm over this. Instead of, taking the time out to see what you may have done wrong and how the situation can be fixed. And once you got those blinders on and the enemy is in, what are you doing? You're not in a position to receive your blessings. And no one wants to be out of position or out of the will of God. So I'm excited to hear about you guys' discussion and how you feel about the topic and advice. I hope you guys have a good week. And that's it for this evening. Bye.